still on the Mull of Kintyre. Oh, mist rolling in. No, shut up. So we've got the last tree down near the main complex. We've got a sycamore, Acer sudiplatanus. Now the manager of this day wanted these cutting down because these are exactly the same as all the trees here, 160-year-old. They're in fine fettle though. There's no rot whatsoever in these trees. So me and the manager's wife held him at knife point. We're not cutting these down. So what we're going to do is we're going to reduce these trees. Because in the summertime, once it gets to like early evening, the sun's going down behind those cliffs. It's just dark here. There's no light getting in whatsoever. And the leaves are causing issues, blocking all the drains up. Drains going down across the road, so they're blocking it up. So if we reduce this back by 50%, that'll let a lot more light in, and it's going to be at least 25-30 years before these need doing again. Probably felling then. I won't be doing it. So with reductions, what we do is we reduce the canopy right back to the crown, so we'll be left with some sticks with just a few like branches, so that when next spring comes around, the tree will still be able to come into a reduced capacity of leaf, and we're not going to be like upsetting the trees vigour for next summer. So when you're doing reductions, mainly you can only do them on hardwoods. If you reduce a softwood, it'll never grow back. But on hardwoods, there's a few hardwood trees that don't like being reduced. So if you have a beech tree, you can reduce it by like 10-15%. If you do any more than that, you'll probably kill the tree. So if you've got like acers, sycamores, acers, willows, anything from the salix genus, poplars, anything with like vigour that puts on a hell of a lot of growth, you can reduce them with no worry about upsetting the tree's demeanour. So, because if you have a look here, that's funny, isn't it? Nice as that. So all that's coming down off the fell, and it goes under this little bridge. Oh, look at that. Got springs on the way. Some bulbs coming up there. That little burren comes down under the bridge, and there's all these some more sycamores, maybe lime trees. They're going there, so it's going to be a real pain in the posterior if we were to drop half of this tree's overhanging the burn. Oh, hello. All right. So half the trees overhanging the burn, so if we were to just dismantle it, we've got a real issue getting down there. I don't want to be going down there because I think apparently there's a troll under the bridge, so I don't want to be going down there chucking out branches up. So there's quite a technical rigging system that we've set up called the speed line. So So what we've done here is we've set an anchor point for our lowering line. We've got quite a bit of tension down to the van, and this is called the speed line rigging system. So what we can do here is when I'm up the tree and I'm taking all these branches off, doing the reduction, I don't know if you'll be able to see, but there's an orange rope there that I'll be tying to the branches, and then when I drop it, it's on a pulley system on a carriage, and that sends it down the speed line to the ground, so it's going right over the beck. We're not getting wet and the troll stays happy. And then on the back of the carriage we've got a pulling line fixed to a pulley around the tree, so that we can pull the carriage back up the speed line back to where I'm working, and I can take my next branches down then. So it's quite quite complicated, but it's an much easier system for when we're rigging this tree down. So I'm going to get back up the tree and we'll start cutting, and we'll probably take some footage of the speed line in action. Right, so it's the day after the day before. So yesterday we got this sycamore reduced. We rigged it down. You saw us use the speed line to get stuff over the burn. So we've reduced it back to those growth points there. So when you're doing a reduction, you always put it back to a crook, what's called a growth point, because when you get to those growth points, what the tree will do then is it'll send out new regenerative growth over the following year, and then it'll send out so many different buds will emerge from that cut point, and then over the next like 10-15 years they'll grow up, and then the tree will decide which one's the strongest one, and it'll put all its energy into that growth, and then it'll kill all the other growth off, so then it knows which is the strongest one, and that'll become the new limb on the tree. So that's when they emerge from that cut point, that's called advantageous bud growth. And then if we were to come back maybe 2 years time, up the stem there'll be new buds coming out, and that's called dormant bud growth. So those buds are hidden in the timber of the tree, waiting for the moment to emerge, so the tree's always ready. So if a storm came in, snap one of the limbs out, the tree's always ready to regenerate, because it's a vigorous tree. So with the advantageous bud growth, when the tree decides to kill off all the majority of the bud growth, it'll put all its energy into the strongest limbs, which is fine, but then in like 30 years time that's a weak point there, so it's not as weak as that original growth that we've cut back. So then you can either cut that back again, or they'll snap out, or by that time you can decide that the tree's past its best and it can be felled out. So you can see that I've left a lot of the spangly bits of branches, so next spring the tree can still put leaves out of those buds that are set for next spring. If we were to cut it right back to the stem and just left the sticks, next summer the tree is only relying on that regenerative growth for its photosynthesis. So next spring there'll be a massive leaves here, and that gives the tree an extra amount of energy to push on that regenerative growth. So when we reduce it back, we try and make like a nice specimen shape of it, so that the tree's balanced then, and it's ready to romp on for the next few years. So another advantage of reducing trees, as regards to taking them out, is like you saw before we started cutting, with the limbs were growing right out over the beck down onto the path. So a tree will extend the roots as far as the canopy will go. So there is a beck here, so I presume it'll go down into the beck, maybe under the beck if it can, just to brace itself for when these winds come. So now we've reduced it, the tree's even more stable because those roots extend to where the old canopy were, but we've only got that specimen shape now. So this tree will be stable for like at least another 30, 50, 60 years. It's 160 years old now. There's no reason why this tree can't get to 250 years time. I won't be coming back to fell it because I'll be in an old people's home by then. So we're just about to climb the second one to reduce that back exactly the same as this one. And we're going to have a look at what we found. So luckily I was going to climb up the back of this tree, and as I was just about to come off the ground, I found some rock. Look at that. So the tree's lost its integrity now. So we're going to have to take this tree out, because if we just if we have a look up there, the majority of the tree, the majority of the growth is going towards this shed here. So that's where the chickens live, and if this tree blew over onto the shed, there'd be no eggs, and we've got to have eggs. Eggs is brilliant. So this tree has to come out. When you look at it, you think, well, why is that tree put all the growth on this side? Because that's south facing, so the sun will come up over there. So the majority of the growth should be on that side of the tree, like it was on the first one that we reduced. But if we come around to this side, you can see here there's two monstrous limbs coming out here at some point. And that lime tree, I would say, is like 25, 30 years old. We were speaking to one of the neighbours next door, and I asked him, I said, can you remember when cause he's been here 30 years, I said, can you remember what happened to this tree? And I think in the depths of his mind, the storm blew in and snapped something out here. So previous tree surgeons come in and cut them off. That's unbalanced the tree. So the tree's now like out of balance, and it could potentially blow over. It's been like this for, like I say, 20, 30 years. So it's withstood it, but now the rock's in, each storm that comes through, there's more chance of it blowing over. We don't want that. So if I was to come in at a job and all this had blown out, snapped out, I'd have been tempted to reduce it back quite a way out from the tree. Because as this tree surgeon's put it off there, there's that hole there, so it allows ingress of disease. It reduces the tree's vitality and vigour and immunity. So that's where some disease has ingressed into the tree to damage the heartwood of the tree. So if you're ever cutting something snapped off, tempted to cut it back to the nearest growth point, which might have been like quite a way out into over the beck, but that's less chance of disease entering the tree. And do you remember I was just mentioning 5 minutes since about the advantageous buff growth? So that's what the tree's done. So it will have sent, before all this disease setting, degraded the vigour of the tree. There'll have been a lot of growth around here. So the tree's decided to keep this limb, and it's tried pushing forward. And if this disease hadn't setting, that would have been a new limb that had grown out. Just like it's done on that one there with that quite hefty limb coming up. So, what we've done is we've thrown a rope up this tree. You probably won't be able to see it. The rope halfway up the tree, and that goes back to a tree up in the wood, and we've set a turfy winch up because it might straight fell, it might not, but with the turfy winch we've got like 5 ton of pulling force pulling the tree over, so it should go to plan and fell nice and as it should. Now, we had an issue with this lovely little bridge that someone's made, which I presume the troll that I was mentioning, when he was a little nipper, that was his home. But as all trolls do, he's grown big, he's grown big and strong, and he's moved house and gone under the bridge now. So the estate manager says that's redundant now. So we can, if need be, we can fell it, we can smash that bridge out. We don't want any more trolls down here because it's just caused bother. They scare goats, and there's some wild goats on the coast. That's probably why they haven't come into the complex, because they're scared of the troll. So, I've already put my gob in the tree. So, what we'll do now is we'll get you into position. I'll do my back cuts, and we'll winch it over, and hopefully we'll see everything go to plan. We'll see what happens. Right, so that was a blooper, wasn't it, that? That wasn't supposed to happen, that. So, if you have a look at the cut. So, when we struggled to get it over, when I come in with the saw, I've cut way too much of the hinge over, and it just popped down into the beck. But luckily it's on the banking, so it shouldn't be too much of an arse to cut up. But at least it didn't go in the shed. It's still got eggs. So these things happen. It's first accident at least job, but never mind. So we've got this tree cleared up, everything's mashed up. Thankfully we got his little trotters wet yesterday and cleared the burn out. Because overnight it's come a hell of a lot of rain. You know, if there's all that brash down there, we have some real issues because it's all going through that little sluice down there. And now it's clear. The troll won't be following us back down the M6 on his moped after having a word with me. So my ego's just about recovered from my little blooper yesterday. So we've got everything cut up. But it's interesting when we come back and look at the stump, we can see just what a bad condition this tree was in. So we'll start around this side actually. So I made the schoolboy error really, because you should inspect the tree just before you fell it, just to see what's going on. And this particular fungus here, it's called King Alfred's cakes, because King Alfred the Great, he burned the cakes and the kitchen he did spoil. Well, I nearly spoiled the shed with knocking this tree over the wrong way. So this particular fungus, King Alfred's cakes, I think off the top of my head it's Dalraida concentrica, and it's called a saprophytic fungus. So what saprophytic fungus do is, when the immunity of the tree is compromised, it opens up avenues where fungus can get in and start rotting the tree out, start degrading the tree to the ground. It's just like the cycle of nature, and this is what saprophytic fungus do. So if you ever go for a wander through the woods and you see some fallen timber, you'll usually always see these King Alfred's cakes on them. They're usually one of the first ones in to start degrading the timber. And this particular fungus has been used by humanity for thousands upon thousands of years. Because what you can do is you can strike a spark into that, and it'll hold an ember for days and days and days. So when the nomadic travellers, or you know, the people came to Mull, landed on the shores, there's no fire. They probably had a smouldering King Alfred's cake in the pocket. Blow it and you can kindle your fire. And it was also used, if you grind it up, it makes quite a good ink. Can you look at that? So yeah, it was ground up and used as ink. But it hasn't been doing that on this tree. It's been degrading it, and it's caused the demise of the tree. So when we looked up at the tree, there's still a lot of healthy growth on this side of the tree, but obviously on the far side of the tree where that rotted ingress, it really compromised it. So if we have a look at this, the stump, all this is dead. And these black marks here are called spalting. So if we were to slab that timber up, people would pay thousands for that, them bits of timber, because it's real beautiful features and it has marbling in the timber. But it's no good for the living tree. So all that was holding this tree up really was that more yellow line there, and around there, that's the sapwood, so that was all, that was sending the water up and the nutrients down, and that's all that was holding this tree up. So if that tree wasn't in the way, sheltering it from the wind, this probably would have blown over at some point. And I kind of knew there was an issue, because when we were pulling on that turf winch, there was no flex in the tree. And usually you can see the flex and you can hear it cracking and popping as the heartwood's tearing out at this at the gob. So when we didn't hear any of that, there were no flex, I knew I was in bother really. If I could, I'd slap my own bottom, but I can't. And I also made a real schoolboy error. When it wouldn't go, I tried coming in more and try to cut through my gob, try to send it over a bit. That just weakened the structures, and then it popped out here and down. So no one's infallible, least of all me, 'cause every day is a learning curve and I'm still learning. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut this down to destroy my evidence, and then once that's done, it's on to the next tree.